The approval of traffic marking materials intended for carriageways is essentially based, after an inquiry concerning the production, technical and quality control facilities of the firm, on actual road site tests carried out during the traffic under conditions selected to be similar to the national average as regards traffic, climate and road pavements. As a matter of fact, the problem consists in selecting, in a range of materials proposed by suppliers having a full freedom of formulation, those which will keep a satisfactory quality level throughout a sufficient lifetime, minimum 1 year. For these road tests, our eagerness to obtain identical test conditions for all products has led us to applications perpendicular to the carriageway, the number of products tested being considerable. The tests are being at present carried out on the National Road number 2 in the Oise department, which bears on its 2 double-lane carriageways a traffic density of 3,500 vehicles a day. The experimental area covers one 80mm deep bituminous concrete carriageway, depth over sand, and one striated concrete carriageway. Also, there are mainly areas that allow the machines to start and stop under conditions close to real ones. However, most of the pictures that you will see were taken on the old testing site where such start and stop zones did not exist. The application is carried out by the manufacturer under the supervision of the authority. On the day fixed by notification, the manufacturer comes to the testing site with his equipment, which shall be a standard working site equipment, and with the products to be tested. Guiding marks are made so that he can perform the preliminary marking. Simultaneously, the application testing is being organized. The Public Works Regional Research Laboratory of Saint-Quentin is in charge of all these tests. One of the first operations consists in calibrating the plastic tests panels intended for the ratings. The atmospheric conditions are recorded, hygrometry, temperature, presence of wind or sun. The stickers for the samples are also being prepared. The first contractual operation is actually the sampling of the different products. The samples, made anonymous by the labeling, are being used for the identification of the chemical analysis in view of subsequent checks which are possible on any working site. Actually, if the road tests are the only significant ones to judge the quality of a marking material, they are much too long for use in quality control and approval. It is the chemical analysis which, in these cases, provides proof that the product is actually the same. Accordingly, one can expect an approximately similar behavior. A flow cup called LCH cup is being used to determine the application viscosity of the products, which as a rule are supplied ready for use. If some thinner is necessary, the latter will be weighed out. Next comes the filling and the adjustment of the machines, which are carried out under the manufacturer's responsibility. The authority technician records the main working characteristics of the machine. For paints, the air pressure at the compressor and at the spray gun. For thermoplastic thick coatings, it will be, for instance, the heating temperature of the material. It's also necessary to check the adjustment of the glass bead sprinklers. All these data, which appear on the manufacturer's brief and are being checked on the testing area, will be recorded on the approval certificate. Most manufacturers who have, however, a good knowledge of their products control their adjustments before the application by carrying out a trial marking. The rates of application are being checked by weighing. Then the actual application can start if the humour of the machine permits it. The technician is there who records the time 0 for the start of each stripe and its application duration. He also determines, only as a guide, the wet film thickness on a stiff aluminium panel. It's obvious that the practical application conditions are largely different according to the product types. 1 or 2 component paints, sprayed or extruded thermoplastics, cold coatings, and the prefabricated stripes are requiring very different equipments and application operating processes. At any rate, this application is being performed with the utmost care by the manufacturers, as it determines to a great extent the success or the failure of the test. There is only one basic requirement for all types of equipment. They shall be industrial machines intended for actual use of road working sites. In towns, however, there's still the possibility of using simple equipment, such as a scraper to apply some thick coatings or even a trowel. For the prefabricated stripes, essentially used in town, the application methods are very diversified. An approval procedure is still existing, however, for a class of product exclusively intended for towns, which cannot be provided with reflective glass beads. For these products, the spraying of anti-skid particles, either separate or mixed with glass beads, allows to increase the roughness noticeably. To determine the drying time which will be recorded on the approval certificate, a Renault 4L wheel loaded with ballast is being used. More precisely, one measures the time required to reopen the road to traffic. As the wheel passes along the stripe, no trace of paint shall be carried away onto the tyre. An indentation left by the tyre on the stripe is, however, tolerated. Now it's time to determine the ratings. The sprinkling is stopped immediately before the machine passes over the test panel, situated at the stripe end, as the dry paint only is being measured. On the other hand, a second test panel will be coated with paint and beads. Thus, it will be possible to calculate by difference the weight of the beads. The small metallic test panels are picked up and carried away to the laboratory in order to measure the dry film thickness of the products. On the road site are carried out the weighing of the plastic test panels and the calculation of the rates of application by weight. These data are recorded on the application report and are countersigned by the two parties. Sometimes after discussions. The application being thus performed, it is now up to time and to the tyres, studded or plain, to do their work. The laboratory people come along at regular intervals, defined by the specifications, to measure each of the 4 criteria: wear, retroreflection, colour, skid resistance, which determine the service level of the product. Photos of each stripe are being taken, at first in the centre line area, then in the area of the passage of wheels, according to the aim of the product, marking for areas with light, average or heavy traffic. Marks are given by comparison with a wear scale. It's obvious that the wear occurs much faster in the area of the passage of wheels, but with considerable differences according to the product used. The photos are kept as references. To measure the retroreflection or visibility by night, a reflectometer is being used. This instrument projects onto the marking stripe provided with its beads a ray of light under an incidence close to that of a vehicle headlights. The light reflected towards the motorist is being analyzed by a photoelectric cell. Thus, the apparatus called Ecolux allows an easy measurement of the retroreflection by daylight. After adjustment and calibration by means of a white standard panel, by setting the instrument on the stripe, one can directly read the value of the light collected. The minimum value required for the approval has been selected, taking into account the visual notations established by night by road users on about 20 markings with various levels of retroreflection. The result depends on the amount of beads used, their embedment, and their adhesion to the material. As to the color, which allows the visibility by day, the measurements are performed directly on the stripe by means of a portable colorimeter. The calibration of the instrument is carried out by setting at first the optical head on a black panel. Then one proceeds to the adjustment of the colored filters, and after that the white panel is being placed for the final calibration. The optical head is then set on the stripe, and the tri-stimulus values, X, Y and Z, are instantly displayed by pressing the corresponding keys, and this is recorded on a chart. One should recall that any color can be defined by its three tri-stimulus values, corresponding to the three basic colors. Two of them define its chromaticity, that is, its hue, red, green or blue. The third, beta, characterizes its brightness. It is the luminance factor, beta, which is the most important criterion for the visibility of marking materials. In particular, it allows one to discard products which are too gray or too dull. Finally, the last criterion, the skid resistance, is of prime importance in town for pedestrian crossings and also for the arrows because of their size. It's the British Pendulum Skid Resistance Tester, or SRT, which is being used for this measurement, owing to the small size and the position of the test stripes. This instrument shall be used with much care to provide significant results. The rubbing length must be correctly adjusted and its calibration shall be frequently checked. A result is always the mean value for 5 tests carried out with water lubrification of the surface tested. The required minimum value has been fixed at 0.45 for products intended for normal open country markings, and at 0.55 for special markings and for markings in town. It's the whole of these tests which enables one to reject insufficient or ill-formulated products. Thus are selected for the French roads materials which, properly applied, will exhibit a behavior similar to that observed on the approval testing site, insomuch as the nature of the traffic and of the carriageway are not too different. This is particularly important for visibility by night, which is the essential quality of the road markings.
beautiful.